Within every human being, there exists a silent force that shapes thoughts, decisions, habits, and destiny. This force does not speak loudly, yet it influences every step of life. It is always active, always listening, and always responding to what it is given. This force is the subconscious mind. Most people move through life believing that their reality is controlled by external circumstances, by luck, by other people, or by limitations that seem unchangeable. Yet beneath these surface beliefs lies a deeper truth. The subconscious mind is constantly creating patterns that turn thoughts into experiences. It does not question whether those thoughts are helpful or harmful. It simply accepts them and brings them into form. Imagine a farmer standing in the soil does not decide what will grow. It does not reject one seed and accept another. It simply nurtures whatever is planted. If the farmer plants seeds of fear, doubt, and failure, then those are the crops that will rise. If the farmer plants seeds of confidence, hope, and determination, then those are the crops that will fill the field. The subconscious mind works in the same way. It is always fertile, always ready, and always faithful to what it is given. There is a story of a young woman named Sana, who believed from an early age that she was not meant for success. She carried this belief quietly within her, repeating it in her thoughts without even noticing. Over time, she avoided opportunities, hesitated in important moments, and surrounded herself with people who reinforced her doubts. Her life became a reflection of what she had accepted as truth, not because it was real, but because her subconscious mind had been programmed to make it real. One day she encountered a different idea, that her thoughts were not fixed and that her inner beliefs could be changed. At first, this seemed impossible, yet she decided to test it. She began speaking to herself with encouragement. She imagined herself achieving small goals. She allowed herself to believe that change was possible. Slowly, her actions began to shift. She took chances she once avoided. She spoke with more confidence, and she began to see results that once felt out of reach. Her reality changed, not because the world changed, but because her subconscious mind was given a new set of instructions. This book is a journey into that hidden power. It is not based on fantasy or illusion, but on the understanding that human behavior, thoughts, and emotions are deeply connected to the patterns stored within the subconscious mind. It is about recognizing that change begins from within, and that every person has the ability to reshape their internal world. Throughout these chapters, you will explore how beliefs are formed, how they influence actions, and how they can be transformed. You will discover how imagination can create new possibilities, how repetition can reprogram old patterns, and how awareness can unlock potential that is. This is not a promise of instant success or effortless transformation. It is a guide to understanding a process that requires patience, consistency, and belief. The subconscious mind does not change overnight, but it responds faithfully to what it is given over time. As you move forward, keep one idea in your awareness. Your mind is always listening, your inner voice is always planting seeds. And your future is always being shaped by what you repeatedly think, feel, and believe. The power is already within you, waiting to be understood, guided, and awakened. Chapter 1. Awakening the Mind Within. There is a moment in every human life when a quiet question begins to rise from within. Why am I living this way? Why do my days repeat in the same patterns? Why do I feel limited even when I desire more? This moment is not a sign of weakness. It is the beginning of awareness. It is the first step. The subconscious mind is always present, even when it is not noticed. It works silently beneath thoughts, guiding actions, shaping reactions, and storing every belief that has ever been accepted as truth. From childhood to adulthood, it absorbs words, emotions, and experiences without resistance. A child who hears encouragement begins to believe in possibility, while a child who hears doubt begins to carry fear. These impressions do not disappear. They become the foundation upon which life is built. Imagine a boy named Ion who grew up hearing that success was only for others. He was told to be careful, to avoid risks, to accept a simple life. These ideas slowly settled into his subconscious mind, forming an invisible boundary around his potential. As he grew older, he found himself avoiding challenges not because he lacked ability, but because his mind had been trained to expect failure. His world became smaller not because of reality, but because of belief. One day, Ion met a mentor who asked him a simple question: what if your limits are not real but learned? At first, the idea felt uncomfortable, yet it planted a small seed in his mind. He began to observe his thoughts, noticing how often he told himself that he could not do something. He realized that these thoughts were not facts, but patterns that had been repeated so many times they felt true. Awakening the mind begins with this realization that thoughts are not always reality. They are often reflections of past conditioning. The subconscious mind does not question these patterns. It simply follows them like a program running in the background. When a person becomes aware of this process, they gain the ability to change it. Ion decided to experiment with his thinking. Each time he caught himself saying, "I cannot," he replaced it with "I will try." Each time fear appeared, he reminded himself that it was only a learned response, not an unchangeable truth. At first, nothing seemed different, but slowly his actions began to shift. He spoke up more, he explored new opportunities, and he allowed himself to step beyond his... This is how awakening happens, not through sudden transformation, but through consistent awareness and small changes in thought. The subconscious mind responds to repetition. When a new idea is introduced again and again, it begins to replace the old pattern. The mind starts to accept the new belief as truth, and behavior begins to align with it. There is another example of a woman named Hira, who believed she was not worthy of happiness. She carried this belief quietly, influencing her relationships and choices. She often found herself in situations that reinforced her feelings of unworthiness. One day, she decided to question this belief. She asked herself, where did this idea come from? And is it truly mine? Through reflection, she realized that her belief had been shaped by past experiences that no longer defined her present. She began practicing self-acceptance, speaking to herself with kindness, and imagining a life where she deserved joy. At first it felt unnatural, but she continued. The subconscious mind slowly absorbed this new message, and her actions began to change. She set boundaries, she made healthier choices, and she allowed herself to experience happiness. Awakening the subconscious mind is not about denying reality. It is about understanding that reality is influenced by internal patterns. When these patterns change, the perception of life changes, and new possibilities emerge. The mind begins to notice opportunities that were once ignored, and to create paths that once seemed invisible. Every person has this power within them, yet many remain. They believe that life happens to them, rather than being shaped by them. This belief keeps the subconscious mind running on old patterns, repeating the same results again and again. But once awareness is awakened, the cycle can be broken. The process requires patience, because the subconscious mind has been shaped over years. It cannot be changed instantly, but it can be guided consistently. Every thought, every belief, and every repeated idea becomes a seed planted in the mind. Over time, these seeds grow into actions, habits, and outcomes. Ion continued his journey, facing challenges and moments of doubt, but he no longer saw them as proof of limitation. Instead, he saw them as part of growth. His subconscious mind was being reprogrammed with each new belief he chose to accept. Eventually, he achieved goals he once thought impossible, not because he became a different person, but because he awakened the power that had always existed within him. The same truth applies to every human being. The subconscious mind is always working, always shaping, always responding. The question is not whether it has power, but whether that power is being used consciously or unconsciously. Awakening the mind within is the beginning of transformation. It is the moment when a person realizes that change is possible, not by force, but by understanding. It is the moment when thoughts are no longer accepted blindly, but are chosen with intention. And it is the moment when the journey toward a new reality truly begins. Chapter 2. The language of the subconscious. The subconscious mind does not speak in words the way the conscious mind does. It does not argue, analyze, or question. Instead, it communicates through images, emotions, sensations, and repeated experiences. It understands feeling more than logic and responds to what is deeply impressed upon it rather than what is casually thought. Many people believe that simply thinking something once is enough to create change, yet the subconscious mind requires more than passing thoughts. It listens to what is repeated with emotion and belief. It responds to what is imagined clearly and felt deeply. This is its language, and those who learn to understand it gain the ability to influence their inner world. Imagine a young woman named Zara who wished to become confident in social situations. She often told herself, "I should be confident," but whenever she entered a room full of people, she felt anxious and unsure. Her words were not enough to convince her subconscious mind because they carried no strong image or emotion behind them. Her subconscious still held the old pattern of fear. One day she decided to try a different approach. Instead of forcing, she repeated this visualization every day, not as a task, but as an experience. She allowed herself to feel it as real. At first, nothing seemed to change, but gradually something shifted. When she entered real situations, her body felt slightly more relaxed. Her voice became steadier. Her reactions were no longer controlled by fear alone. Her subconscious mind had started to accept the new image and was guiding her behavior accordingly. This is how the subconscious mind learns. It does not respond to forced statements, but to consistent emotional experiences. When a thought is combined with feeling, it becomes powerful. When it is repeated, it becomes familiar. And when it becomes familiar, the subconscious begins to treat it as reality. Another example is a man named Imran who constantly worried about failure. He imagined worst-case scenarios in every situation without realizing that he was training his subconscious mind to expect negative outcomes. His fear was not caused by reality, but by the images he repeatedly created in his mind. When he became aware of this pattern, he decided to change it. Instead of imagining failure, he began imagining solutions. He saw himself overcoming challenges, finding answers, and achieving results. He did not ignore difficulties, but he chose to focus on positive outcomes rather than negative ones. Over time, his mindset shifted. He became more proactive, more creative, and less fearful. His subconscious mind started guiding him toward possibilities instead of limitations. Dreams are also part of the language of the subconscious. They are expressions of thoughts, emotions, and unresolved patterns that exist beneath conscious awareness. A person who pays attention to their dreams can gain insight into their inner world. While not every dream holds deep meaning, many reflect ongoing thoughts and feelings that the subconscious is processing. Intuition is another form of communication. It is that quiet inner knowing that appears without logical explanation. A feeling that something is right or wrong, a sudden idea that seems to come from nowhere. These are signals from the subconscious mind based on patterns and information it has absorbed over time. People who learn to trust and refine this intuition often find themselves making better decisions even without clear reasoning. The key to understanding this language is awareness. A person must begin to observe their inner images, their emotional responses, and their repeated thoughts. Every fear, every hope, and every expectation is a message being sent to the subconscious mind. Whether these messages are positive or negative, they will be accepted and reflected in behavior and experience. Zara continued practicing her visualizations and emotional awareness. Over time, her confidence became natural. She no longer had to imagine it because it had become part of her identity. Her subconscious mind had been trained to respond with calmness instead of fear. Imran also continued his practice of focusing on solutions. His life did not become free of challenges, But his approach changed. He faced difficulties with a mindset that looked for growth rather than defeat. His subconscious mind supported him by offering ideas and responses aligned with his new thinking. The language of the subconscious is always active. It is present in every thought that carries emotion, in every image that is repeated, and in every belief that is accepted. Understanding this language is not about controlling every thought, but about choosing which ones to strengthen and repeat. When a person learns to speak this language, they gain the ability to influence their inner world in a powerful way. They begin to create thoughts that support growth emotions, that encourage action, and images that lead toward success. This is not an instant process, but a gradual transformation that shapes the way life is experienced. The subconscious mind is always listening. The question is, what message is being sent to it each day? Chapter 3. Breaking the Chains of Negative Beliefs. Every human being carries invisible chains that are not made of iron, but of belief. These chains are formed over time through experiences, words, and repeated thoughts. They do not appear in the physical world yet. They hold immense power over actions, decisions, and outcomes. Many people live their entire lives within these limits without ever realizing that they were created by the mind. The subconscious mind stores every belief that is accepted, especially those formed during moments of strong emotion. A child who is told repeatedly that they are not good enough may grow into an adult who avoids challenges, not because they lack ability, but because their subconscious mind has accepted this belief as truth. These beliefs become automatic patterns, guiding behavior without conscious awareness. Consider the story of Bilal, who always believed he was not capable of achieving success in education. During his early years, he struggled with learning and was often compared to others who performed better. Each comment, each failure, became a layer added to his subconscious belief that he was not intelligent. As he grew older, he stopped trying, not because he could not improve, but because his mind had already decided the outcome. One day, a teacher noticed his hesitation and asked him a simple question: "Who told you that you cannot learn?" This question, he realized that his belief was not a fact, but a conclusion formed from past experiences. This awareness became the first crack in the chain that held him back. Breaking negative beliefs begins with recognizing them. A belief cannot be changed if it remains hidden in the subconscious mind. Person must observe their thoughts, especially in moments of doubt or fear. These thoughts often reveal the beliefs that are controlling behavior. Statements like "I am not good enough," "I always fail," or "I cannot change" are not truths. They are patterns that have been repeated and accepted. Bilal began to challenge his belief. Instead of accepting failure as proof of his limitation, he started to see it as part of learning. He told himself that ability can grow with effort. At first, this felt uncomfortable because his subconscious mind was used to the old pattern. Yet he continued repeating the new belief and supporting it with action. He studied consistently, he asked questions, and he allowed himself to improve step by step. The subconscious mind does not resist change, but it requires repetition. When a new belief is introduced, it must be reinforced through consistent thought and experience. Over time, the old belief weakens and the new one becomes stronger. This process is not instant, but it is reliable for those who persist. Another example is Amina, who believed she did not deserve happiness due to past mistakes. She carried guilt that influenced her choices, leading her to accept less than she deserved in relationships and life. Her subconscious mind had created a pattern where she unconsciously chose situations that confirmed her belief. When she became aware of this pattern, she decided to forgive herself, not as an excuse, but as a step toward growth. She reminded herself that the past does not define the future. She began to imagine a life where she was worthy of respect and happiness. She made choices that aligned with this belief, even when it felt unfamiliar. Gradually, her life began to change. She attracted healthier relationships and created opportunities that reflected her new self-image. The chain that once held her was not broken by force, but by replacing the belief that created it. Negative beliefs often feel real, yet they are not permanent. They are learned, and anything that is learned can be unlearned. The subconscious mind does not hold on to beliefs by choice. It holds on to them because they have been reinforced. To break these chains, a person must combine awareness repetition and action awareness reveals. The belief repetition introduces a new one, and action proves it to the subconscious mind. Each step strengthens the process and moves the individual closer to freedom. Bilal continued his journey, and over time, he achieved academic success that once seemed impossible. His intelligence had not suddenly appeared. It had always been there waiting to be expressed beyond the limits of his belief. Amina also continued growing, learning to trust herself and embrace new possibilities. Her happiness was not given to her by chance. It was created by changing the belief that once restricted her. The chains of negative beliefs are powerful, but they are not unbreakable. They exist only as long as they are accepted. The moment a person begins to question them, they begin to weaken. And with consistent effort, they can be replaced with beliefs that support growth, confidence, and success. The subconscious mind is always ready to accept what it is given. The choice lies in whether those beliefs will limit life or expand it. Chapter 4. The creative power of imagination. Imagination is one of the most powerful abilities given to the human mind, yet it is often misunderstood and underestimated. Many people see it as a tool for fantasy or escape, rather than a force that can shape reality. In truth, imagination is the bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. It is the space where ideas are formed before they become actions, and where possibilities are created before they exist in the subconscious mind responds strongly to imagination because it cannot easily distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is actually experienced. When a person repeatedly imagines a situation with emotion and clarity, the subconscious begins to accept it as real. This acceptance influences behavior, decisions, and perception, guiding the individual toward experiences that match the imagined reality. Consider the story of Samir, who always dreamed of becoming a successful speaker, but was held back by fear. Every time he thought about standing in front of an audience, he imagined himself making mistakes, being judged, and failing. These images created anxiety, which then affected his actions. His subconscious mind accepted these negative images and responded by reinforcing fear. One day, Samir learned that his imagination could be used in a different way. Instead of allowing fear-based images to control him, he began to consciously create new ones. He imagined himself standing confidently on a stage, speaking clearly, and connecting with his audience. He saw people listening with interest and responding positively. He felt a sense of calm and confidence, as if the moment was already real. He practiced this visualization daily, not as a forced exercise, but as an experience he allowed himself to feel. Each time he imagined success, he strengthened a new pattern in his subconscious mind. Slowly his fear began to decrease, not because the situation changed, but because his inner image had changed. When the opportunity came to speak in a real setting, he still felt nervous, but his reaction was different. His mind no longer showed him images of failure, but of success. This shift allowed him to perform better than he expected, and with each experience, his confidence grew. Imagination does not replace action, but it prepares the mind for it. It creates a mental blueprint that the subconscious mind follows. When a person imagines a goal clearly, they begin to notice opportunities that align with it. They take actions that move them closer to it often, without realizing how the process is unfolding. Another example is Noor, who wanted to start her own business, but felt overwhelmed by uncertainty. She could not see a clear path, and this lack of clarity created hesitation. Instead of focusing on what she did not know, she began using her imagination to create a vision of what she wanted. She imagined her business operating successfully, serving customers, and growing steadily. She visualized herself making confident decisions and handling challenges with ease. These images gave her a sense of direction even before she had all the answers. Her subconscious mind began guiding her toward ideas and actions that matched her vision. She started learning new skills, connecting with people, and taking small steps forward. Each step was influenced by the image she held in her mind. Imagination also plays a role in overcoming limitations. When a person cannot see a possibility, but when they imagine a different outcome, they open the door to new ways of thinking. This does not mean ignoring reality, but expanding it by allowing new possibilities to exist. The key to using imagination effectively is consistency and emotion. A single thought has little impact, but repeated images combined with feeling create strong impressions in the subconscious mind. The more vivid and detailed the imagination, the more powerful its effect. It is also important to avoid negative imagination. Many people unknowingly use their imagination to create fear by constantly thinking about what could go wrong. These images have the same effect as positive ones, shaping the subconscious mind and influencing behavior. This is why awareness is essential. A person must choose what they allow their mind to create. Samir continued to develop his speaking ability, using imagination as a tool to strengthen his confidence. Over time, he became known for his clarity and presence, not because he was free of fear, but because he had trained his mind to focus on success rather than failure. Noor also continued building her business, facing challenges, but guided by the vision she had created. Her imagination provided direction and motivation, helping her move forward, even when the path was uncertain. The creative power of imagination is always available. It is not limited to certain people or professions. It is a natural ability that can be developed and used intentionally. When guided with awareness, it becomes a powerful force for growth and transformation. The subconscious mind responds to what is imagined repeatedly and with belief. Images created within the mind become the foundation for actions and experiences. By choosing those images carefully, a person can begin to shape a reality that aligns with their goals and desires. Imagination is not an escape from reality. The subconscious mind learns through repetition more than anything else. It does not change because of a single thought or a moment of motivation. It changes when an idea is repeated so often that it becomes familiar and accepted as truth. This is why habits are formed and why they are so powerful. They are patterns that have been repeated until they no longer require effort. Every action a person performs repeatedly becomes easier over time, not because the action itself changes, but because the subconscious mind has learned it. A person who wakes up early every day no longer struggles with the decision to wake up. It becomes automatic. A person who constantly doubts themselves no longer questions that doubt. It becomes part of their identity. Consider the story of Danish, who wanted to improve his life, but felt stuck in unproductive habits. He spent hours each day distracted, avoiding important tasks, and telling himself that he would change tomorrow. This pattern continued because his subconscious mind had accepted it as normal. Each repetition strengthened the habit, making it more difficult to break. One day he realized that waiting for motivation was not enough. He needed to create a new pattern. He started with a simple change. He decided to focus on one habit, waking up early, and using that time for something meaningful. At first it was difficult. His mind resisted because it was used to the old routine. But he continued repeating the new behavior every day. The first few days required effort and discipline. The next few days felt slightly easier. After some time, it became natural. His subconscious mind had begun to accept the new habit as part of his routine. This small change created a ripple effect. He started organizing his day, better completing tasks, and feeling more in control of his life. Repetition works in both positive and negative ways. Just as good habits can be formed through a person who constantly complains strengthens a pattern of negativity. A person who avoids responsibility strengthens a pattern of inaction. The subconscious mind does not judge these habits, it simply follows what is repeated. Another example is Mahak, who struggled with self-confidence. She often told herself that she was not capable and avoided situations where she might be judged. This behavior became a habit reinforced by repetition. Each time she avoided a challenge, she confirmed her belief. When she decided to change, she did not attempt to transform everything at once. Instead, she chose small actions that could be repeated. She began speaking up in simple conversations, expressing her thoughts, even when she felt uncertain. She practiced this daily, allowing herself to become comfortable with discomfort. At first, it felt unnatural, but repetition slowly changed her response. Her subconscious mind started recognizing these actions as normal. Her confidence grew not because she suddenly became fearless, but because she had practiced courage repeatedly. Habits are powerful because they operate without constant attention. Once a habit is formed, it frees the conscious mind from effort, allowing actions to occur automatically. This is why building positive habits is one of the most effective ways to influence the subconscious mind. The key to creating new habits is consistency. A person does not need to make extreme changes to see results. Small actions repeated daily have a greater impact than large actions performed occasionally. The subconscious mind responds to what is done regularly, not what is done once. It is also important to be patient. Habits are not formed instantly. They require time and repetition. The mind may resist at first because it is comfortable with existing patterns. This resistance is not a sign of failure, but part of the process. With persistence, the new habit becomes stronger, and the old one begins to fade. Danish continued building new habits, focusing on consistency rather than perfection. He replaced distractions with productive activities and gradually transformed his routine. His life improved not because of sudden change, but because of repeated actions that shaped his subconscious mind. Mehak also continued her practice of speaking and expressing herself. Over time, her confidence became natural. She no longer had to force it because it had become part of her identity through repetition. The power of repetition is always at work. Whether a person is aware of it or not, their habits are shaping their life each day. The question is not whether repetition is happening, but what is being repeated. The subconscious mind is always learning, always adapting, and always forming patterns. By choosing actions carefully and repeating them consistently, a person can create habits that support growth, success, and fulfillment. What begins as effort eventually becomes ease. What begins as a choice eventually becomes a part of who a person is. This is the true power of repetition. And Habit Chapter 6. The influence of emotions on the subconscious mind. Emotions are the energy that gives power to thoughts. Without emotion, a thought is weak and easily forgotten. But when a thought is combined with strong feeling, it leaves a deep impression on the subconscious mind. This is why the subconscious mind responds more quickly to feelings than to words. It does not analyze whether an emotion is positive or negative. It simply absorbs and reflects it. A thought repeated with fear creates a pattern of anxiety, while a thought repeated with confidence creates a pattern of strength. The emotion acts as a signal telling the subconscious mind what is important and what should be reinforced. Consider the story of Farhan, who had a deep fear of failure. Every time he faced a new opportunity, he felt a strong sense of anxiety. His mind filled with images of things going wrong, and his body reacted with tension. This emotional response strengthened his belief that failure was inevitable. Even when he had the ability to succeed, his fear held him back. One day he realized that his emotions were not just reactions but influences. They were shaping the way his subconscious mind responded to situations. He decided to work on changing not just his thoughts, but the feelings connected to them. Instead of focusing on fear, he began practicing a sense of calm and control. He took deep breaths, imagined himself handling challenges successfully, and allowed himself to feel confidence even in small moments. At first this felt difficult, because his old emotional patterns were strong. But he continued practicing each time. He replaced fear with calmness. He weakened the old pattern and strengthened a new one. Gradually, his emotional response began to change. Situations that once created anxiety became easier to handle. His subconscious mind started associating challenges with confidence instead of fear. Emotions also influence decision-making often more than logic. A person may know what is right, but still choose differently because of how they feel. This is why understanding emotions is essential for influencing the subconscious mind. When emotions are aligned with positive thoughts, they create powerful motivation. When they are driven by negativity, they create resistance and doubt. Another example is Sana, who struggled with feelings of unworthiness. She often felt that she did not deserve success or happiness. These emotions influenced her behavior, leading her to avoid opportunities and accept less than she was capable of achieving. Her subconscious mind had linked success with discomfort and doubt. When she became aware of this, she began working on her emotional state. She practiced gratitude, focusing on what was already positive in her life. She allowed herself to feel appreciation for small achievements. She also imagined herself experiencing success and allowed herself to feel joy as if it had already happened. These emotional experiences gradually changed her inner state. Her subconscious mind began associating success with positive feelings instead of discomfort. This shift influenced her actions. She became more willing to take risks and pursue opportunities. Her life began to reflect her new emotional patterns. The key to using emotions effectively is awareness and control. Not control in the sense of suppressing feelings, but in guiding them. A person cannot stop emotions from arising, but they can choose how to respond to them. By shifting focus and perspective, it is possible to change the emotional meaning attached to a situation. For example, a challenge can be seen as a threat or as an opportunity. The situation may remain the same, but the emotional response changes. This change influences how the subconscious mind processes the experience and how the individual reacts. Farhan continued practicing emotional awareness, and over time, his confidence became natural. He no longer allowed fear to dominate his actions. Instead, he used it as a signal to focus and prepare. His subconscious mind had been trained to respond differently. Sana also continued strengthening her positive emotional patterns. Her sense of self-worth grew, and her actions reflected it. She created a life that aligned with her new beliefs and feelings. Emotions are not obstacles, they are tools. When understood and guided, they become a powerful force for change. They give depth to thoughts and help the subconscious mind accept new ideas more quickly. The subconscious mind listens to what is felt more than what is said. This is why emotional awareness is essential for transformation. By choosing to cultivate positive emotions and aligning them with clear intentions, a person can influence their inner world in a meaningful way. Every feeling leaves an impression. Every repeated emotion creates a pattern, and every pattern shapes the way life is experienced. The power lies not in avoiding emotions, but in learning how to use them. Wisely, Chapter 7. The role of belief in shaping reality. Belief is one of the most powerful forces within the human mind. It acts as a filter through which every experience is interpreted and understood. The subconscious mind accepts beliefs as instructions and then works continuously to make reality align with them. Whether a belief is true or false does not matter to the subconscious mind. What matters is whether it is accepted and repeated. A person who believes they can succeed begins to notice opportunities, take action, and persist through challenges. A person who believes they will fail often avoids effort, hesitates in important moments, and gives up quickly. In both cases, reality appears to confirm the belief, not because the world is fixed, but because the mind influences perception and behavior. Consider the story of Usman, who believed that he was not meant to achieve financial success. He grew up hearing that wealth was only for a select few, and that people like him should remain satisfied with less. This belief settled deeply into his subconscious mind, influencing his decisions without his awareness. When opportunities appeared, he dismissed them thinking they were not for him. When challenges arose, he saw them as proof that success was out of reach. His actions matched his belief, and his results reflected it. His reality seemed to confirm that he was right. One day he met someone who challenged his thinking and asked him to consider a different possibility. What if success is not limited to certain people, but available to anyone willing to learn and grow? This idea felt unfamiliar, but it sparked curiosity. Usman began observing his own thoughts. He noticed how often he rejected possibilities before even trying. He realized that his belief was... He decided to experiment with a new belief. He began telling himself that he could learn the skills needed for success. He imagined himself improving step by step, achieving small goals and gradually building something meaningful. At first this felt uncertain, but he continued. The subconscious mind began to absorb this new belief. Through repetition and action, it started influencing his behavior differently. He became more open to opportunities, more willing to take risks, and more persistent in the face of challenges. His results began to change not instantly, but steadily. Beliefs shape not only actions, but also perception. Two people can face the same situation and experience it differently based on what they believe. One may see a problem while the other sees an opportunity. One may feel defeated while the other feels motivated. The difference lies in the belief that guides their interpretation. Another example is Hina, who believed that she was not creative. She avoided activities that required imagination and convinced herself that creativity was a talent she did not possess. This belief limited her ability to explore new ideas and express herself. When she decided to question this belief, she started trying small creative activities without expecting perfection. She allowed herself to make mistakes and learn from them. She told herself that creativity can be developed rather than being fixed. Over time, her perspective changed. She began enjoying the process of creating rather than fearing it. Her subconscious mind accepted the new belief, and her actions reflected it. She discovered abilities she never thought she had. Beliefs are not permanent. They are formed through repetition and can be changed in the same way. The subconscious mind does not hold on to beliefs because they are true, but because they have been reinforced. A new belief can replace an old one when it is repeated with enough consistency and supported by action. It is also important to understand that beliefs influence emotions. A person who believes they are capable feels confident and motivated. A person who believes they are limited feels doubt and hesitation. These emotions then influence behavior, creating a cycle that reinforces the belief. To change this cycle, a person must start with awareness. They must identify the beliefs that are shaping their life and question whether they are helpful or limiting. Once a limiting belief is recognized, it can be replaced with one that supports growth. Usman continued developing his new belief through consistent effort. He learned new skills, explored opportunities, and gradually built a path toward success. His journey was not without challenges, but his belief gave him the strength to continue. Hina also continued nurturing her creativity, allowing it to grow through practice and exploration. Her belief in her ability transformed her experience and opened new possibilities. The role of belief in shaping reality is profound. It influences what is seen, what is felt, and what is achieved. The subconscious mind follows these beliefs faithfully, turning them into patterns that guide life. Every belief is a choice, even if it does not feel like one at first. By becoming aware of these choices and consciously shaping them, a person can influence their direction. The subconscious mind is always ready to accept what is believed. The question is whether those beliefs will limit life or expand it into something greater. Chapter 8. The Power of Focus and Attention. The human mind is constantly receiving information from the world, yet it can only focus on a small part of it at any given moment. This focus acts like a lens, deciding what is important and what is ignored. The subconscious mind follows this focus and begins to strengthen whatever is given attention repeatedly. What a person focuses on grows stronger in their awareness. If attention is placed on problems, those problems begin to feel larger and more overwhelming. If attention is placed on solutions, the mind begins to search for ways to improve and move forward. The direction of focus shapes perception and ultimately influences reality. Consider the story of Hamza, who often felt that life was unfair. He focused on what he lacked, comparing himself to others and noticing every difficulty in his path. This constant attention to negativity created frustration and dissatisfaction. His subconscious mind absorbed this pattern and continued to highlight situations that matched his focus. One day he was advised to try a simple shift. Instead of focusing on what was missing, he began to but he continued practicing this shift in attention. Gradually his perception began to change. He noticed possibilities where he once saw obstacles. He felt more motivated to take action, and his overall outlook improved his life. Circumstances did not instantly transform, but his experience of them did, and this influenced the actions he chose to take. Focus is not only about what is seen, but also about what is ignored. The mind filters out information that does not match its dominant focus. This is why two people can be in the same environment, yet notice completely different things. One may see opportunities, while the other sees limitations. The difference lies in where their attention is directed. Another example is Ariba, who wanted to improve her skills, but often felt distracted. She would start tasks with enthusiasm, but quickly lose focus, moving from one activity to another without completing anything. This lack of sustained attention prevented her from making progress. When she understood the importance of focus, she decided to train her mind. She began setting clear intentions for her time, choosing one task and giving it her full attention. She removed distractions and reminded herself of her purpose whenever her mind wandered. At first, it required effort, but with practice her ability to concentrate improved. Her subconscious mind adapted to this new pattern, making it easier for her to stay focused. Over time, she became more productive and confident in her abilities. Attention also influences emotional states. A person who constantly focuses on past mistakes may feel regret, while a person who focuses on future possibilities may feel hope. The mind follows the direction of attention, creating emotions that match it. This is why controlling focus is essential for both mental and emotional well-being. Hamza continued practicing positive focus, and over time, his mindset became more balanced. He no longer ignored challenges, but he approached them with a solution-oriented perspective. His subconscious mind supported this by guiding him toward actions that created improvement. Ariba also continued strengthening her focus, making it a habit rather than a temporary effort. Her ability to complete tasks and achieve goals improved significantly because her attention was no longer scattered. The power of focus lies in its ability to direct the subconscious mind. When attention is given to a specific idea repeatedly, the mind begins to prioritize it, shaping thoughts, actions, and decisions accordingly. This process happens naturally, whether a person is aware of it or not. To use this power effectively, a person must become conscious of where their attention is going. They must choose to focus on what supports growth rather than what creates limitation. This does not mean ignoring reality, but directing energy toward what can be influenced and improved. The subconscious mind amplifies whatever is focused on. It brings forward ideas, opportunities, and patterns that align with that focus. By choosing attention wisely, a person can begin to shape their experience in a more intentional way. Every moment offers a choice of focus. Every thought directs attention somewhere. And every repeated focus creates a pattern that influences life. What the mind sees repeatedly, it begins to believe, and what it believes it begins to create. Chapter 9. The Subconscious Mind and Decision-Making. Every decision a person makes is influenced not only by conscious thought, but also by the deeper patterns stored within the subconscious mind. While the conscious mind may analyze options and consider outcomes, the final choice is often guided by beliefs. The subconscious mind acts like a silent advisor. It draws upon past experiences, learned patterns, and internal beliefs to influence decisions quickly, and often without clear explanation. This is why people sometimes make choices that feel automatic, even when they cannot fully explain the reason behind them. Consider the story of Salman, who often found himself making the same mistakes in his career. He would begin with enthusiasm, but when faced with important decisions, he hesitated or chose the safer path, even when it limited his growth. He believed he was being practical, but in reality, his subconscious mind was guiding him based on a deeper fear of failure. This fear had been formed through past experiences where taking risks led to disappointment. His subconscious mind stored these moments and used them as a reference point. Whenever a similar situation appeared, it signaled him to avoid risk. This process happened quickly and felt natural, even though it prevented him from reaching his potential. One day, Salman became aware of this pattern. He realized that his decisions were not always based on present reality, but on past conditioning. This awareness allowed him to pause and question his choices. Instead of reacting automatically, he began to ask himself whether his decision was driven by fear or by growth. At first, this process felt uncomfortable because it required going against, yet he continued practicing this awareness. Each time he made a decision, he considered not only the immediate outcome, but also the belief behind it. Slowly, his decision-making began to change. He started choosing opportunities that aligned with his goals rather than avoiding them. The subconscious mind also plays a role in intuition. That sudden feeling that something is right or wrong often comes from patterns recognized at a deeper level. While intuition can be valuable, it is important to understand that it is shaped by past experiences. If those experiences are limited or negative, the intuition may guide a person in a restrictive way. Another example is Nida, who struggled with relationships. She often chose partners who did not treat her well, even though she consciously desired a healthy connection. Her subconscious mind was influenced by early experiences that shaped her understanding of relationships. Without realizing it, she was drawn to familiar patterns, even when they were harmful. When she became aware of this, she began to reflect on her choices. She asked herself why she felt comfortable in situations that did not support her well-being. This reflection helped her recognize the influence of her subconscious beliefs. She began working on changing those beliefs by focusing on self-respect and healthy boundaries. As her internal patterns changed, her decisions also changed. She started choosing relationships that aligned with her values rather than repeating old patterns. Her subconscious mind gradually adapted to this new standard, guiding her toward better choices. Decision-making becomes more effective when the conscious and subconscious minds are aligned. When beliefs support growth, decisions become clearer and more confident. When beliefs are limiting, decisions become hesitant and conflicted. To improve decision-making, a person must develop awareness of their internal patterns. They must recognize when a choice is influenced by fear, doubt, or past experiences, rather than present reality. This awareness creates a space where conscious thought can guide the final decision. It is also important to create new experiences that support positive decision-making. Each time a person chooses growth over fear, they provide evidence to the subconscious mind that change is possible. These experiences gradually reshape internal patterns, making better decisions feel more natural. Salman continued practicing conscious decision-making, and over time his confidence grew. He no longer allowed past experiences to control his choices. Instead, he used them as lessons while focusing on future possibilities. Nida also continued strengthening her awareness and self-respect. Her decisions became more aligned with her well-being, and her relationships improved as a result. The subconscious mind will always influence decisions, but it does not have to control them. By becoming aware of its patterns and guiding them intentionally, a person can make choices that lead to growth and fulfillment. Every decision is not just a response to the present, but a reflection of the inner world. By shaping that inner world, a person can influence the direction of their life in a meaningful way. Chapter 10. Overcoming fear and resistance. Fear is one of the strongest, yet when fear is repeated and reinforced in the subconscious mind, it becomes a limitation rather than a guide. Many people live their lives avoiding challenges, opportunities, and growth because of fear that has been ingrained. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between real and imagined fear. If a person repeatedly imagines failure, embarrassment, or loss, their mind begins to accept these possibilities as inevitable. This creates resistance to action, even when circumstances are safe or favorable. Consider the story of Adil, who wanted to start his own business. He had ideas and skills, but whenever he considered taking the first step, he felt a heavy sense of doubt and anxiety. He imagined himself losing money, disappointing his family, and facing rejection. These fears grew stronger each time he thought about them, and eventually prevented him from acting. Adil realized that his fear was not reality, but a pattern stored in his subconscious mind. It had been built over years of hearing warnings and avoiding risks. He understood that in order to move forward, he had to confront this internal resistance. He began practicing a process of conscious reassurance. He visualized taking the first steps, confidently handling challenges, and learning from mistakes without allowing fear to dominate. His focus shifted from what could go wrong to what could be learned and achieved. At first, the fear did not disappear completely, but his response to it began to change. Each time he acted, despite fear, the subconscious mind received a new message that risk was not always dangerous and that growth was possible. This gradually reduced resistance and built courage. Another example is Amna, who feared public speaking. She had avoided situations that required expressing her ideas in front of others because her mind held a vivid image of embarrassment and judgment. Every time she imagined speaking, she felt her body tense and her thoughts freeze. When she decided to address this fear, she began imagining herself speaking confidently and receiving positive reactions. She practiced speaking in small groups, gradually increasing the audience size. Each successful experience weakened the old pattern of fear and strengthened a new pattern of confidence. Fear often disguises itself as practical reasoning. People say, "I cannot do this because it is too risky," or "I am not ready." Yet these statements are often echoes of subconscious patterns rather than facts. By observing these thoughts and questioning them, a person can distinguish between genuine caution and limiting fear. The subconscious mind responds to repeated evidence. Emotionally charged experiences have the strongest impact. Repeatedly acting in spite of fear creates new emotional memories that reinforce courage and resilience. Adil continued building his business, taking small risks each day. His fear did not vanish, but it no longer dictated his actions. Instead, it became a signal to prepare carefully and act with awareness. His subconscious mind began guiding him toward solutions rather than blocking him. Amna continued practicing public speaking, gradually taking on larger audiences. Her confidence grew naturally through repeated experience and emotional reinforcement. Her subconscious mind now associated speaking with competence and positive outcomes rather than anxiety. Overcoming fear requires patience, awareness, and action. It is not about eliminating fear, but about changing the subconscious patterns that give fear power over behavior. Each step taken despite fear strengthens new patterns of courage and possibility. The mind is always listening. The fears it has been fed repeatedly will influence perception and action unless consciously replaced with new patterns. By choosing to act in alignment with goals rather than fears, a person can gradually transform resistance into momentum. Every challenge faced despite fear becomes evidence to the subconscious mind that growth is possible. Every action taken in the presence of doubt weakens old limitations and builds inner strength. Fear is not an enemy. It is a guide. When understood and managed, it signals where change and growth are possible. By consciously addressing fear, the subconscious mind begins to support rather than hinder the journey toward success and fulfillment. Conclusion: awakening the power within. The journey through the subconscious mind is a journey into the deepest parts of ourselves. It is a path that reveals how thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and repeated patterns shape every aspect of life. The power that creates limitations can also create opportunity. The fears that hold us back can be transformed into courage. The habits that restrict us can be replaced with ones that empower us. Throughout this exploration, it has become clear that the subconscious mind is always active, always listening, and always responding, whether we are aware of it. Every thought we entertain, every emotion we feel, and every belief we accept plants seeds that grow into the reality we experience. Awareness is the first key to transformation. By observing thoughts and feelings and questioning long-held beliefs, a person begins to create the space needed for change. Recognition of old patterns is not judgment, but insight. It is the first step toward consciously guiding the mind instead of being unconsciously guided by it. Repetition and habit are the tools through which the subconscious mind is shaped. Small, consistent actions repeated over time become automatic patterns. These patterns influence behavior and perception, creating a cycle that can either limit or expand life. By deliberately choosing actions and thoughts that align with growth, the mind is trained to support desired outcomes. Imagination and focus are bridges between intention and manifestation. Imagination allows us to create detailed mental images of the life we want to experience. Focus directs attention toward these possibilities and away from distractions and limiting beliefs. When combined with emotion and repetition, the subconscious mind begins to treat imagined possibilities as real, guiding behavior and choices toward their fulfillment. Belief is the lens through which life is interpreted. Strong, empowering beliefs open doors and create resilience. Limiting beliefs create resistance, yet every belief can be reshaped through awareness, repeated practice, and supportive experiences. The mind is not fixed, it is adaptable and responsive to the patterns it is fed. Fear and resistance are signals, not enemies. They reveal areas where subconscious patterns are influencing behavior in ways that may not serve growth. By consciously addressing fear and acting in spite of it, the mind creates new patterns that replace limitation with possibility. Decision-making, emotional awareness, focus, imagination, belief, and habit are all interwoven in the functioning of the subconscious mind. Each element strengthens the others. Awareness without action produces no change. Action without awareness may reinforce old patterns. Emotional alignment amplifies thoughts and beliefs, while fear or doubt can distort them. The most important truth is that the power to transform life resides within each individual. The subconscious mind does not impose limits. It reflects the instructions it is given. By consciously choosing thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions aligned with growth, a person can shape their inner world, which will in turn shape their outer reality. This is not a process of instant results. It is a gradual unfolding that requires patience, yet the effort is faithful because the subconscious mind responds to what it is given with precision over time. Every small step toward conscious awareness, repeated positive action, and empowered belief accumulates into profound transformation. The journey of awakening the power of the subconscious mind is ultimately the journey of awakening to one's own potential. It is the realization that life is not merely something that happens to us, but something we participate in creating. Each thought nurtured, each belief chosen, each action repeated becomes part of the foundation for a life aligned with purpose, growth, and fulfillment. The mind is always listening, always shaping, always reflecting what it is fed. The choice is ours. Every day offers the opportunity to plant seeds of possibility, courage, confidence, and success. The power has always been within, waiting to be awakened. The path forward is clear. Awareness, intention, and consistent practice guide the subconscious mind to serve rather than limit. The life one dreams of is not distant or impossible. It is a creation waiting to emerge through the mindful and purposeful use of the incredible power within. The journey begins now and continues with every thought we choose, every emotion we feel, and every action we take. The subconscious mind is ready to listen and respond. The power to create, transform, and awaken resides within each of us.